Good evening, everyone. We're going to call tonight's meeting to order. I'd like to begin with an approval of the agenda for tonight's public meeting. Councillor McIntosh and Councillor Sherwood, all in favor? And that's carried. Is there any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? No, seeing none. We will then, I'll ask everybody to please rise if you're able for the singing of our national anthem.
To patron love in all of us command, with glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
We would like to acknowledge the treaty lands and territory of the Williams Treaty Nations and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We also recognize that Dufferin County is the traditional territory of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee and is home to many Indigenous people today. Because we are doing a public meeting today, we actually have 3 public meetings. I will turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight's agenda includes 1 statutory matter and 2 non-statutory matters. Statutory matters are those that are required to be presented at a public meeting for applications received as per the Planning Act. There is no provincial legislation required for non-statutory matters. However, they are being presented as a mechanism to gather information. All members of the public are permitted to speak to statutory public meeting agenda items. However, only residents, taxpayers, service providers, or members speaking on behalf of an association or organization that serves the town of Orangeville are permitted to speak to non-statutory public items, provided they have not spoken to the item before council in the preceding 3 months. If you would like to speak to a matter and meet the requirements I just mentioned, please call 1-647-374-4685 and enter meeting ID 988-8473-5617, followed by the pound sign twice, or you can attend the meeting by clicking on the registration link included on the published agenda. If you wish to be notified of the decision on any of the matters listed on the agenda, please contact the Clerk's Division with your name, phone number, mailing address, and email address referencing the specific matter by email to clerksdepartment@orangeville.ca or by calling 519-941-0440, extension 7303. To be notified on the statutory item of 915 Amanda Street, please fill out the form on the table outside of the door. All information submitted or provided during the meeting or registration will be considered public information and entered into the public record. So, as I get a breath, that's the longest sentence I've had to do in one of these meetings. We will now move into the first matter on the agenda regarding OPZ 2025-01, statutory meeting for 915 Amanda Street. Staff confirmed that notice was provided in accordance with the Planning Act for this item. I will now call on Robert Russell from Robert Russell Planning Consultants to provide a presentation. Mr. Russell, thank you for joining us, sir.
Bear with me a moment. My name is Robert Russell. I'm with Robert Russell Planning Consultants, 162 Guelph Street, Georgia. Inc. For the applications, for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 9, 11, 13, and 15 Amanda Street. So the Amanda Street is literally just south of us pretty much here, just about 100 meters away. It is quite close by. The proposed application consists of 4 properties. They're highlighted in the magenta on the screen here. And just as I'm sure everyone's aware, but just to provide context, we're 100 meters from the commercial area on Broadway. We're less than a kilometer from the power centers and large box stores. We're less than a kilometer from the Island Lake Conservation Area. There are multiple parks and schools and open spaces, and this is a very central location with a lot of amenity around it. It is essentially what I'm trying to get at there. There's also and also it's an area in transition as well, as you can see by recently approved applications at 30 Town Line, 31 Town Line, 60 Broadway, 17 Armstrong, and those are just the 4 that I was able to find quickly. And those are approved ones. There is also a number that are currently in process at 33 to 37 Broadway, 48 to 50 Broadway, and both of those are for 7- and 8-story buildings, and they are within 100 or 200 meters of the site. So it is, again, an area in transition. The town has embarked on their own master plan process for Broadway. So here's zooming in a little bit, here's a little more of the neighborhood context. You can see the 4 properties here. They're not of equal size, they're different size, but together they are this blob essentially on the screen. Amanda Street is a residential street, and it has a mix of buildings on it. There are, as you can see, the single detached homes. You can also see adjacent to the development property, there's an existing townhouse development as well, and it backs onto an open area with a wetland that is located adjacent to the site and encroaches just slightly onto it. Sorry, I'm not sure if that was me or not. So on to the conceptual site plan. So these 4 properties together total about 0.87 hectares. When through the development process, we are proposing to retain the dwellings, the existing dwellings on 13 and 15, and you can see that on the lower left side of the development site here. So that means the resulting development area is about 0.75 hectares. The project is proposed for 120 stacked townhouse units, and for those not familiar with stacked townhouse units, because I don't believe there are any in town from what I've been able to tell so far, and they are relatively new to the GTA area. Stacked townhouses provide higher densities than a regular townhouse because each of the vertical townhouses, instead of having a 3-story townhouse on your own, you might have 1 or 2 of those stories and someone else has the other story. The difference between this and an apartment is there are no interior corridors. Everyone has their own private entrance from outside. It does mean that those upper stories have stairs that they need to access. But it blends the balance of some of the house features that people want in terms of their own private access, not having to worry about hallways and elevators, but also provides a smaller type of unit that can be certainly more attainable and more affordable. I don't want to speak about affordability at this point because we don't know what the prices will be, but generally when you're able to put more units on a property and an efficient construction, these are definitely cheaper to construct than an apartment building would be with the same number of units. Prices become much more attainable to the people in town. There'll be 7 blocks within this. All the units are 2-bedroom units. Some will have 1 bathroom, some will have 2 bathrooms. The range of unit sizes ranges from 68 square meters to 91 square meters. And the target, as I mentioned, because of the potential for this to be lower cost, target is twofold. We're looking at first-time home buyers, whether single or coupled, because there's not a lot of housing that they can attain right now. People in their 20s or early 30s, but also empty nesters. The people who are still, they want some privacy of their own house. They don't want to be in a facility. They don't want to be in long-term, or they don't need long-term care. They don't want to be in a dedicated seniors home, but they don't need their big 4-bedroom house anymore, which opens up the opportunity for those then houses to go back on the market to help out the people who are trying to get into the market and the younger families. Rounding out the site is landscaped area of about almost 1,500 square meters, and that's 20% of the site area. And that's primarily above the parking garage. So it's not the natural areas, it's not the open space area. This is the landscaped area that'll be on top of the parking garage. But then there's also 31% of the site, so 2,300 square meters is that back half. And that's associated with the floodplain, this is the buffer to the floodplain, the buffer to the wetland. And essentially, when you look at this is 50% of the site will be green, essentially. Some of it, yes, is on top of the parking garage, but it will be landscaped. So 50% of the site is green. Underground, we have 132 parking spaces, which equates to 1 per unit plus some visitor parking. 124 secure bicycle parking spaces. This is the long-term style of secure spaces. It's not just a rack to lock up to. This will be more in a cage-type situation and much more secure than, and it's called long-term in a lot of municipalities. So the overall site density, when you consider the project site includes 2 dwellings already, so including those 2 existing dwellings, we're looking at 142 units per hectare. And that differs from what the OPA is requesting, and I'll get to that on a later slide. So here's an artist's rendering of what this could look like. So this would be the camera view is above Amanda Street, probably 20 meters in the air above Amanda Street. It's almost like a drone view, if you would. And you can see that we have it does look somewhat paved, but that's probably because this is an evening view. So those are, we're proposing grass block type pavers. So it's above the parking garage. There will be landscape, there will be living grass in there, but it does, because it's part of the fire route, does need to be able to support a fire truck. And you can see that we've got rooftop patios. There isn't any usable living space, interior living space on the rooftop. It is just enough for the stairs to come up and a door to go out. So it is not an additional story. It is, and I'll get to that later because the staff report suggests these are 5 stories. But as you can see, there's 3 stories above grade here, plus that little bit of, it's not a mechanical room because there is no mechanical like an apartment would have, but it is, as I said, just enough for stairs and to get people access to the rooftop patios, which provides the amenity space for the units on the 3rd and 4th floors. The units on the 1st and 2nd floors each have their own private little areas outside of their front doors. And you can see that, the site plan still has to come in. We have not prepared the site plan. The actual architectural design and color choices are subject to change. This is not final by any means of the way you look at it. We're just trying to establish density and setbacks and height and things like that at this point. So there is still some opportunity to adjust some things, but essentially this is designed by the architect per the urban design guidelines to fit in with the neighborhood as best it can. So part of what we see here is, this is to help demonstrate that this site slopes down quite a bit. There's an 11-meter drop from the front lot line to the rear lot line. So effectively, when viewed from the street view, people would only see the front couple units in the first buildings. All the buildings behind it would effectively be screened by the buildings at the front as they drop down. And that even includes for people in houses around that might be on their 2nd stories. Even looking out their window, they will be, the units or the buildings towards the back will be screened. So on to the more technical parts of this. The current official plan designation is residential. And designated on Schedule C as low density multiple. This permits up to 49 units per hectare. We are proposing 161 units per hectare, and that's based on the project area, which is that 0.75 rather than the full 0.87, and the units that are on that. So this is what, from a project measurement standpoint or a technical standpoint to comply with the official plan and the way density is measured, this is what it is. But the impact on the community is the lesser because really we have 140 units, including 13 and 15 Amanda, is what the community would experience. The existing zoning here is R2, and it's split zone. It's also open space conservation too, and that reflects the wetlands and the natural areas towards the back. We are maintaining the OS2 zone. However, the limit of that is being refined a little bit, and the refinement includes a little bit of give and take both ways. There are some areas like where the floodplain extends further out than the OS2 zone currently shows, and there's other places where it doesn't extend quite as far. The floodplain was mapped based on the data from Conservation Halton, CVC, and put onto the survey. There will be a few site-specific exceptions to the zone that we're proposing. The zone we're proposing is the RM2, so we're generally complying with most of the existing RM2 zone provisions. Density being one of the increases we're requesting. The rear yard setback, and that's primarily just a little tiny corner of Building G in the right at the bottom, the southeast corner. With the echo outside is getting a little distracting. There's a few, our setbacks that we're providing to the adjacent dwellings are within what the RM2 zone currently is. The reductions we're looking for are for places that are, say, adjacent to 13 and 15 Amanda, which are part of this project. So we're proposing, all our reductions are for places that are not going to impact the neighbors, essentially. They're going to impact things like we'll be a little bit closer to the woodlot in the northeast corner. We'll be a little bit closer to 13 and 15 Amanda, but again, they are part of this project. So on to a little bit more of a discussion. So there's a number of policies that when in official plans and in the PPS that talk about intensification, that talk about development, talk about things like compact neighborhoods. They talk about being transit supportive. They talk about complete communities. As I mentioned when I was speaking of the context, this is a fairly complete community already where it has community services, it has commercial areas, it has residential. It's growing a bit, it's starting to get some of that more high density residential, because to be transit supportive, the current neighborhood is not. Per the MTO transit supportive guidelines, we're looking at for the minimum to be transit supportive for like 30-minute bus service, I believe is somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 units per hectare. The existing community is 4 units per hectare. That's what this area in Amanda Street is. It is very, very low density for being so close to an existing downtown area. It's an inefficient land use for an area so close to downtown and these amenities. And because of that, that's why the site is well suited to support additional density. And this council has already recognized that because these properties are already designated as an intensification area in the official plan. So you've already decided that these properties can be redeveloped at a higher density. We're just saying that since you approved that, we think the density should be higher than what you previously approved. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we can get density similar to apartment buildings, but without the impacts apartments have, without the shadow impacts, without the privacy overlook impacts, and with the lower costs as well, and to appeal to a wider range and a different target market. The slight sloping, again, will screen some of the visual massing at the lower elevations for the buildings at the back. The lower floor units are partially below grade, which again will help deal with the massing and the overall impact of height. Target demographic, we've mentioned that. Traffic impacts, the traffic study provided by CGE Transportation has identified that there will be additional traffic on the roads, but all the intersections will function at the appropriate levels of service. I'm not a traffic engineer. I only know enough to say that I know intersections have levels of service in terms of the amount of delay that they can have. And the traffic engineer has determined that these intersections will still function with a minimal delay or minimal to no delay. So in summary, there's just a couple additional policies I did want to point out, is that County OP Policy 3.2.2 subsection C does recognize that, and it states in the Dufferin County official plan, that the current policies in the town and the county plans are not sufficient to house the population growth projection. So they've actually deferred some of the population growth. I'm not sure how you can defer population growth. If population grows, they have to live somewhere. This project is one way that you guys can help address that, is if the population projections are higher than what your policies can currently support, this can help. County Policy 3.4.2A again carries on with that, saying that there are limited opportunities for intensification in the county. And again, this is county-wide, not just Orangeville, but Orangeville is the most populous and largest municipality or settlement in the county. So it recognizes that there are limited places for intensification, which then suggests that if you have a location that can support intensification, it would be a good idea. We're maintaining the existing front yard setbacks to along that street front. We're at least 6 meters setback. A couple of the town official plan policies, we have D 3.2.1 suggests higher densities are appropriate in proximity to downtown. As I said, we're 100 meters from downtown here, or the site is, sorry. D 9.2.4 directs a significant amount of growth to the built-up area and intensification areas. As I noted, this is already designated, you've already designated this site for intensification. Policy E 1.12 also speaks to intensification, that your target is a minimum of 50% of new build should be intensification. And that is, of course, that's the dilemma that a lot of municipalities, rural areas have, is there's population, people are growing, families are growing, there's immigration. Between all that, people need to live somewhere. Are we going to expand and take more farmland, or are we going to build up? This doesn't build up so much as it makes it more intense. So that used to be a decision between building up apartments or expanding out. Now stacked townhouses provide something else, another option. As I mentioned, we comply with all of this. We've mapped out the natural areas with the CVC. We have the wetland that's been staked with the CVC. The woodland's been staked. The woodland is at least 30, there's a significant woodland, but it's 36 meters away from the property. There are 2 water courses. They're 60 and 100 meters away from the property. So all the appropriate setbacks are already built into the fact when we get to the property line. We have setbacks for the wetland and the floodplain on the property though. Some of the environmental features that we're incorporating infiltration galleries for the stormwater to help with the water balance and reincorporating and reducing runoff. Along those lines, we also have enhanced swales, which do the similar type of thing. And really, in conclusion, aside from these local criteria here, which I've already spoken about, but the one additional point is what we've tried to do with this site is look at what size of area we have, what our constraints are in terms of servicing, in terms of what can be supported by the local road network, and then try to figure out what can we fit in there with those constraints. We're not creating shadows, we're not creating privacy overlooks because we're keeping the height down because it's a stacked townhouse site. You have the infrastructures in place in the ground. The road network can handle it. So we think this is a good idea for this site and represents good planning. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell. I think we're doing questions at this time, just right into the next, correct? Madam Clerk, yeah? Okay. Council, any questions of Mr., yeah? Councillor Sherwood?
Thank you, through you. So in your presentation, you're mentioning the 4 properties, 9, 11, 13, and 15.
Yes.
One of the things that has popped up to me is 11 Amanda Street is on the non-designated heritage registry. So this would need to be reviewed by our Heritage Orangeville Committee, which it will come. Staff will do that once they get more information, and I guess you'll have a site plan available as well. So we would have to review the condition of 11A Amanda Street. I would imagine since it was built in 1878, it's probably a little rough looking around the edge, but even still, we have to think about protecting those types of properties. So I guess my question is it really necessary to have to demolish those others 2 in order to fulfill the development?
Mr. Russell?
Through the chair, essentially, yes. In order to get a driveway, and we need to put it somewhere, 11 Amanda Street, unfortunately, is the central location for the driveway. We have submitted a cultural heritage impact assessment that has evaluated 11 Amanda. I can't remember the specific details of the assessment, but essentially they found that yes, it did not meet the enough criteria to be designated. But again, I don't recall the details, but certainly I'll be happy to follow up once I review that report again.
Yep, Councillor Sherwood.
Yes, from the data that I have about 11 Amanda Street, it does not qualify to be designated. However, we still will review that, and you'll be getting input as well from Heritage Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sherwood. Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Taylor and Mr. Russell. Good evening, and thank you very much for your presentation. I know that we will have a number of questions and comments that will be coming from, I presume, the gallery at some point. Is that correct? So I don't want to take away from some of the information that might be coming from them, but looking at your presentation, I had a couple of things that came about. To be clear, as the chair of the Affordable Housing Task Force, we tabled a report in October. So my ears certainly picked up when you mentioned the word affordable or attainable. Very much aware of the stacked townhouse design, certainly a game changer for our community in the right context. One thing I noticed in your presentation, and again, this is pertaining to two areas that, again, have been highlighted, was the, I guess, the Site AA cross-section. So this was a visual that was highlighting the way the townhouses would be designed, and as they proceeded further to the east of that site, proposed townhouses, they would in fact decrease in height. The one absence was in fact a reflection of how the existing properties are to that design. And you know, the visual impact that I see, and having been on Amanda a number of times, being a longtime resident, I'm trying to visualize the visual impact from the street versus how it would be further back. So I guess that's more of a comment as a question. But the one question that did come up is, in fact, is we're looking for intensification. We're looking for the ability of individuals not necessarily to be so car dependent. Do you have a best practice that you know of where you can, in fact, stipulate a purchaser only having one vehicle? I don't have any record of that information, and I don't know if that's something that you've come across. And again, I see that in your slide here that identifies that this will be somewhat of a comment of sale that individuals will have to adhere to.
Mr. Russell.
So through the chair, I can speak briefly to your first comment in that I did in my planning report, I did do a brief little analysis of heights because the west side of Amanda Street is also up a little higher than the east side. It continues to rise. So the overall height of our development, the roof height, will be similar to the 2 and 3, and I think there's a single 3-story home on the west side. I may be incorrect, but still, it will be similar in height to the bigger homes on the west side. In terms of the parking, essentially the way these things work is that the sales agreement will say, we can only provide parking for one car, or that's all you can purchase. The owners will, or the prospective owners, will be made very aware of that. They'll be made aware that there is no street parking on Amanda. I mean, street parking is allowed, but for the purposes of this project, it's effectively, there is not street parking on Amanda for these new residents. So they will know that we cannot accommodate on this site a second vehicle. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other mechanism on how we can prevent them from owning a second vehicle, but it isn't the first time I've had similar questions or projects like this. But yes, it is not uncommon for these types of projects to have in their sales agreement, you have one assigned parking space and that's it.
Okay. Chair Taylor, I have just a follow-up.
Certainly.
Thank
Councillor
you.
Andrews.
Again, you mentioned about attainable and demographically who you're targeting. One thing that I noticed, and you were very clear, if I'm correct in what I heard, that there will not be any elevators, correct?
Through the chair, there's one from the parking garage to the main floor,
Okay.
but not to the units.
And so those that may have accessibility issues, AOD compliance in some regard, I know that we look at it from a municipality perspective, but from a development perspective, I think that narrows, again, some clientele who, as some of your clientele could age in place, and again, may be challenged physically. So again, just a comment, but, you know, an observation in what has been presented so far. Thank you.
Did you want to speak to that, Mr. Russell, or are you?
Through the chair, yes, it is, whenever I have these public meetings and write the planning reports for stacked townhouse projects, it is essentially because of the nature of a stacked townhouse, the fact that everyone has their own outside door, it is very difficult to near impossible to make them accessible. Obviously, everyone has different accessibility needs, so there could be some opportunity, but it's more the ones, I think, with the mobility needs that this may not be the right project for them. That being said, we don't have final grading yet. There may be some ground floor units that do not require stairs, and the fact that there's an elevator for the parking garage might have some units that could, but it is too premature to know for sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Councillor McIntosh?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Russell, for your presentation. I just wanted to confirm some numbers. 120 units, and all the parking is underground? There's no parking up top?
That's correct. Through the chair, that's correct.
I guess my next question is over to our planning department. I thought we had a 1.5 car model for parking minimums. Is that correct?
Yeah, through you, Chair Taylor, that's correct. The current prevailing standard of the bylaw for this unit type is 1.5 spaces per unit. The applicant's seeking to amend that with their application specific to these lands.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. I just have a question about, had you done any demographic research on the amount of or percentage of Orangeville residents who work outside of town?
Mr. Russell?
Through the chair, no, we have not.
Okay, I'm looking at some statistics from 2016 with updates from 2021, saying that 56% of Orangeville residents commute to out of town, indicating that they do need vehicles. We're also seeing a trend too with perhaps with these stacked townhomes. We're actually going to see them split up and become rental units, thus perhaps necessitating even more cars. So as you can see, that is a really big concern for us. So that 120 units could actually double, you know, if these are bought by landowners who plan on renting them out. So that was just a thought that I had. Though the intention, it's geared for families without parking or adequate space for visitors. I don't know how families would access that. Thank you.
Mr. Russell, in fairness, did you want to respond, or are you?
Sure, through the chair. Again, our target demographic is not for families. So that aside is, again, we have to do our best to rely on the fact that every sales agreement will say there's only one parking space. In terms of being able to divide up any of these units, I don't see the opportunity with the stacked townhouse design to be able to divide them up into multiples. I don't think it's physically possible and still meet the OBC requirements. So again, I can't say that no one will try, but it won't be something that is generally permitted in the sales agreement or the condo bylaws.
Very good. Councillor Prendergast, you had a follow-up?
Just an observation. Part of the rationale for the appropriateness of this location, you listed a number of elementary schools. So if that is something you're using to market this project, and you're saying it's not for families, I'm confused.
Mr. Russell?
Yeah. So through the chair, when a planning justification report is written, I have to look at every policy. And I have to answer every policy that might be applicable. So I have to point out these things. It doesn't mean that they'll be used or they're necessary for this project. You'll find a lot of this planning report will say this isn't applicable, but still here is the answer or here is the response because the policy's there, and as a planner I have to respond to it. So again, not our target market. You know, you would think a 2-bedroom unit with 1 bathroom is not very family friendly. So I don't anticipate there will be demand from families, but again, we can target who we market it to, but we can't prevent anyone from necessarily buying a unit.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Russell. No other questions from council at this time. Just a little message to the gallery. So we want to be respectful of our folks. If you could keep the applause and any kind of comments just to yourself as we go through, and everyone will get a chance to speak. But want to keep it as low-key as possible as we go through. We will have delegations at this time. After the delegations, all of you will have a chance to speak. So just hang on here just a quick second, okay? So we'll move into public comments. We've received 2 delegation requests regarding this matter. A reminder to the delegates that you are afforded 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes to present your information to council. So I'll call upon David Waugh at this time to come forward. Please state your name and address for the public record. Good to see you, sir. Is your microphone on, sir? Yeah, very good. You're good now. Yeah. Thank you. So you have 5 minutes, David.
Okay, thank you. I will try not to take up all of it. I mostly have questions tonight. To me, I think this evening is not about expressing my opinion or our opinions, but coming to learn. Because to me, I want to make an educated decision as a very, 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 very close by neighbor to either get excited and hop on board and be supportive and collaborative like the community that we are, especially on Amanda Street. It's part of what we've come to love about it. But at the same time, if this is not a fit, I want to know that too, because when we moved here 5 years ago, this was not something that we saw coming. And I think, I always say to my kids, and I used to say it, when I worked at a bank, I don't mind bad news, but I friggin' hate surprises. And I think, economic markets, whether it's in real estate or stocks and whatever, it's kind of the same. I think we can all probably relate that bad news when the economy is tough, if we know it's going to be bad and bad and bad and bad, well, at least we can make decisions, right? But uncertainty is really, really difficult. And there's a lot going on here that I found surprising as I went through it, just to get into the nuts and bolts here of some of my questions. But I think a lot of it for me really just came back to the not the strategic plan, but the official plan component, not to confuse the two. Because with all due respect to Mr. Russell, the insinuation of what was in the prior presentation was that this meets the plan. But respectfully, if it met plan, we wouldn't be here tonight, at least not talking about this. It doesn't meet the plan, and it doesn't, it requires a bylaw amendment as well, or pardon me, well, I guess it doesn't need a bylaw amendment too, but zoning as well. So I guess what I've struggled with as a resident in understanding this was that this official plan that I'm looking at is dated March the 10th of 2025, and I'm curious if this organization or group had an opportunity to participate and contribute in that most recent, very recent review process of the plan, because it's a 5-year sort of rolling cycle. But they were rather fortunate in that it was recent, and I'm curious if they had an opportunity to participate, because if they did, hopefully it would have been reflected in the updated plan, and if they didn't, I'd be curious as to why not, because that was an opportunity fairly recently. Also, pardon me, I just want to make sure I don't miss anything here. Yeah, I think I just want to be clear as well that I support growth. I think that's important to say. I've said it before. By the way, I mentioned at the top that we live at 2 Amanda, right? That's, you said it's 100 meters away. This project is, I think, 35 meters from our front door. It's 400 meters from here. It's very close. We have 3 kids, all under 8. It's a very, very, very narrow street, talk about traffic, but I don't suffer this not in my backyard kind of thing. I think Orangeville is a community. It's our backyard. We all are here. We share the space together, and we support one another. Very supportive of the projects along Broadway. To me, it's more about how this all works and functions together for us as a community and what it's going to mean for all of us as a collective moving forward, and how does it fit. So I guess in that vein, I'm not here to express any kind of opinion. I'm just really curious how this got here, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense as I read it, but that doesn't mean that it might not be there to be found. I'm just find it really perplexing, and also especially as an immediately proximate neighbor, I didn't hear about this until I got the notice in the mail. Just as a courtesy or strategy, if nothing else, I would have loved to get a knock on the door or a survey in my mailbox to say, something's going on over here. We'd love for you to be a part of it and to share your feedback, right? Just be smart strategically, if nothing else, to say that they consulted and gathered their feedback, even if they go the complete opposite direction. And that, to me, respectfully, I kind of take as a not great signal as far as just collaboration and intent, right? As far as what we're here and what we're all trying to do, because we could all have perhaps different ideas around how we get somewhere. You're talking about political stripes, left, right. But at the end of the day, what I think brings us together is a shared and common view of the future and where we want to go. We may have different ideas about how we get there, but that's where we need to be aligned, is what the future vision is. And I'm curious what the future vision is for this partner versus the immediate neighbors versus the broader community. And I think that's where we need to find some alignment here. And I see him at times, so I'll cut there. But if I've missed anything, I've got 10 seconds for any of my neighbors that want to chime in. Go ahead.
I'm Drew. I live on 5 Amanda Street.
Yeah. Sir, I'm sorry, you're not part of the delegation,
I'm
so you
sorry.
can't speak at this time. You can speak at the end, but you can't speak
What do you
now.
want me to say, Drew?
Yeah,
Can I say one thing really quick in 3 seconds?
sure.
For what it's worth, and Drew will be part of it indirectly. When I came to look at this house for the first time, 5 years plus 3 months ago, really liked the house. It was great. The guy that built it, I think, is in the room somewhere. But as we were coming out, there was a guy walking his dog, walking past.
With-
and I
with
went,
respect,
I'm
David,
going to be
you
very
need-
quick. And I said, what's this community like? Should we, the house is great, but is this a place to move? And the neighbors were the selling point. It was people like you guys. And that's what I think we want to protect. We're welcoming of more, but it's got to be right for all
Thank
of
you
us.
very
long
much,
term.
Mr. Waugh. That's why we're all here. We all love Orangeville. We all love why we live, so, where we live, excuse me. Just as a couple of thoughts for you, this is the process that's followed for a development. So, as feedback, council has nothing to do with it. People would come and say, what's with these evil councilors and they're doing these terrible things to our street? A developer has every right to present the way they've presented today. They can come and present their ideas, and the process is exactly what you just did. You shared your thoughts, you shared your passion, and we want all of these people that are here tonight to share their thoughts and share their passion. That's part of what this process is about. It's a public meeting. So nothing is baked, nothing is firm, and that's the reason we're here. But he's not going to knock on your door, no offense. So, fair enough. But this is the process that we're into now. Thank you very much, Mr. Waugh. I appreciate you speaking today. So I'll now call on Trudy Wood to provide your delegation. And Ms. Wood, if you could please state your name and address for the public record. And thank you for being here.
I'm Trudy Wood, and I live at 22 Amanda Street. I've lived there over 20 years now, and my concern is with the traffic. I submitted a video earlier today. We can it? Nice, okay.
Do you want to just bring it down a touch? There we go.
Okay, so you're gonna see my video of our street during the Christmas Santa Parade. It is inundated with many, many cars, and I fear that that is what will be coming with an extra 132 cars. Parsons Street. So that's halfway down to Town Line, which is where all of these cars are going. So that's, I don't know, 40 cars on a Saturday afternoon, right? Tess, these people are going to be leaving to drive down John Street, get to Broadway, to commute to Toronto, Brampton, outside of town mostly, 56% of them. So my concern is with this amount of traffic, I understand you said the intersections will work fine. I disagree. And I think hopefully there'll be a little bit more research done. I mean, I don't think more parking is the answer, or no parking on Amanda Street. I don't think that works either. But as you can see, even with one car parked, there's no flow. This little black car here has to wait now until these cars move out of the way for them to proceed. So my concern is with the traffic, even during construction, with large trucks moving whatever it is they have to move. It's going to be painful for us and you know, the one-car families that we have there now. But I still have 3 minutes, so I think we also wanted to talk about the wetland in the back area and the amount of animals that we have in our area. There's coyotes and deer and rabbits, and we would hate for that to be impacted. I don't know if there was an environmental, I think there was from the Credit Valley Conservation, there was a study done. I think we also have a neighbor who has some trail cam footage of lots of animals in our area that we would hate to be impacted from the construction and then ultimately the stacked housing in the area. That I also don't know the model that was shown. I don't know that it really fits the heritage style houses we have in our area. I don't know if that is something that can be looked at. 2 more minutes.
You don't have to use all of your time.
I don't.
You've done a great job.
I feel like I should. I went through all that paperwork. Yeah, I think those concerns for our small little street are something that can be further looked into.
Very good. Thank you very much. The prop was excellent. I don't think we've had somebody bring a video before, so thank you
Oh,
for doing
really?
that.
Oh,
As new for me, I think new for this council. So well done on your part, and thank you so much for sharing your concerns.
Thank you.
So Madam Clerk, at this time, are there any members in the gallery who have phoned in or are online who have questions regarding the matter?
We do have one person on Zoom. However, they have not indicated their intention to speak.
Okay. So
I'm
would we
not seeing a
assume-
hand being raised, so I don't
Okay,
think so.
so we'll assume that as a no. So we now ask if there's any member of the public present who wish to speak to this item. A reminder that you are afforded 3 minutes to present your information to council, and that this commenting period is open to all persons according with the Planning Act. And so members in the gallery, if you'd like to come forward at this time and share your thoughts. Yes, sir. Please come forward, yeah. And just state your name and address for the clerks, please. Oh, just need to turn your mic on. There we go, you're on.
Hi,
And you're,
I won't be taking 3 minutes. My name is Drew. I live at 3 Amanda, or sorry,
What's your last name,
5
sir?
Amanda.
What's your last
Drew
name?
Morey.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we live on the, I guess it's the east, no, the west, we live on the west side. So basically I'm, along with David, we, and our family, we don't, object to a development. We believe it's necessary, and we want to, we believe, like David said, everybody has to sort of participate together to get to the same end. So I'm basically restating what's been said, but our greatest concerns are the traffic. I think that's a huge one. My own concern that came up was I thought, okay, well, let's say it's decided, okay, well, yeah, the street's too narrow, let's widen it. Then I really have a heart attack because we've got some of the most iconic century walnut trees in Orangeville. I mean, those things they're just unspeakably precious to us there. So anyway, that's a big one. And the height, I must say I was surprised. I expected to see much taller buildings, so I was already relieved to see that they weren't as tall as I thought. I still think they're a story too tall. For my money, as a taxpayer, I'd love to see more of what's on Spring Street there. I think that's appropriate for our area, but I think that kind of suburban Oakville look just is kind of an insult to that part of town, which is and it's not York Street, but it's kind of its own York Street. You know what I mean? It's got its own really beautiful. It's backs onto the conservation. It's just got that. It's a character. It's got a character of its own. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morey. It's nice to see you in person, too, so thank you very much for being here. Is there someone else in the gallery who'd like to speak to this item? Please come forward. Yep, just come forward. Yep, come on up.
Sorry.
And just state your name and address.
My name is Amber James. I reside at 5 Spring Street, Unit 14.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I'm here before council tonight. I've submitted a petition of 489 signatures from local residents. Pen and paper, old school type of petition, rather than sitting in your living room trying to get the community involved in a neighborhood that's very important to everybody that's here tonight. As of last time I checked, there were roughly 13 houses on Amanda Street that had some cultural relevance to the town that had been noted in town documents. These townhouses of 120 just don't make sense to our community. It will do nothing but disrupt the residents that already live there, residents on neighboring streets such as Parsons, Wellington, and Mill. You will see if you look through that petition, many of those signatures were not just Amanda Street, they were surrounding streets that went around us. We love the idea of sharing our great community with new people and opening up to expansion. 120 units is far too many for that little area. If we could ask council to maybe reconsider, keep the zoning application to low density, I think that you would find a lot more of the community members would be open to sharing 45 spaces as opposed to 120. Much like Little York Street, which I'm sure you all sort of assumed would be brought up today, and every council member sitting here, and when I had watched that vote, had all stated you needed to set a precedent. We are asking you to set the precedent with Amanda Street and do not allow this high-density application to go through. Thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. James. And if I could, kudos to you for being so involved in your community. I think it's amazing what you did, and advocacy is a great thing. Just as a secondary thought, like this is a meeting again. I want to remind everyone, no decisions have been made. Council will undertake this at a later date, but no decisions have been made at this time. So, sir, you have the floor. What is your name and address, please?
My name is Richard Zoltik. I'm in 31 Margaret Street. My commentary comes from the fact that I have 4 children that, as a single parent, I've had to have a couple of jobs to get them through the best schools. They're professionals. I've got a scientist, a medical biologist, an athletic therapist. My daughter's here with me today. She writes the bar tomorrow. None of them live in Orangeville. They can't afford to live in Orangeville. I have a son who's 32 now, who is one step away from being a director at a medical facility, and he can't afford to live in Orangeville. So when I look at the fact that I raised my kids and supported them financially by owning a home, by refinancing that home, by adding to any kind of financial wealth from the home for my family, by being a homeowner, not a renter, my children are not going to have that opportunity in Orangeville. We need development that makes sense and is affordable for our young professionals if you want them to stay here. Otherwise, when we talk about urban sprawl, if you get these large acre developments, you're going to get people moving in with 3 or 4 families in there. And we don't want that either. I mean, all we have to do is look at south of us and what's happening there. So to have a community where our children can actually live in a community where they were born is imperative to me. I live on 31 Margaret Street, and yes, when the festivals are in town, my street's packed. But that's because they can walk to downtown. They can walk to the core. They can enjoy all the facilities that Orangeville has to offer. If we start pushing it outside the limits of town, who's going to walk to downtown? Oh, they can drive to downtown. Where are they going to park? So to me, this type of development allows my children, my professionals, coming home, using one of the bedrooms as an office, another one to sleep in, and have a space that they can call home, their own place. And this type of development could allow for it. Where's the best place for it to be? I don't know. But for me, I encourage this type of development just so that my kids can come back home. None of them live here, and that's why. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone who also would like to speak? James, come on forward.
Thank you. No, I don't get it. I got my own seat.
You just state your name and address for us, James. Thank you.
James Jackson, 50 Carlton Drive in Orangeville. Mine's more of a question, from what I'm understanding, that this whole project is you're aiming towards people who retired and seniors and stuff like that. But if they have mobility issues, the accessibility to this whole development, there doesn't seem to be much for accessibility. For me, I wouldn't be able to live in any one of these units by the sounds of it. Where there's stairs, that's a problem for me. So now if there's seniors, again, with stairs, maybe they'll have accessibility issues. So my question is that how accessible are these units going to be? And you're targeting people like seniors and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, maybe you should have another look at that and limit the amount of units to make it more accessible. Just my thought.
Very good. Mr. Koslak or Mr. Ward, did you want to offer anything, or is that something we'll just take under advisement? I want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Taylor. Nothing further to add. We'll take that and other comments back.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the gallery would like to speak to this evening? No? Oh, one more. Okay. Please state your name and address for us, please.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Crystal Murdoch of
Can you just move your microphone over? There you go.
Spring Street,
Very good.
which no one has really spoke of tonight. I'm here as a resident who cares deeply about Orangeville, its character, its natural spaces, and the well-being of the families who call this neighborhood home. I want to speak specifically about the proposed Amanda Street development and the very real impacts it will have on our environment, our quality of life, and the stability of the neighborhoods that already exist here. I want to highlight the environmental concerns. The land in question is not just unused space, it is important habitat for wildlife, something I know of firsthand as I have the trail cameras set up out there. Deer, coyote, owls, opossum, and countless other species use that space daily. This development would displace them, and during construction, the heavy equipment noise and constant disturbance will create anxiety, not only for the wildlife, but for our own pets and our households. The shaking of our homes alone is something many of us are genuinely worried about. Beyond the environmental impact is the development that threatens the character and comfort of the existing neighborhoods. For many of us, the sunsets along Amanda Street are part of our daily lives, something we share with our children and our neighbors. This proposal would take those views away entirely. And more important, 40 families will lose privacy. Our homes will no longer back onto open space or greenery. Instead, we would directly face other houses, windows, yards into yards. That is an enormous change to the way we live and the way our neighborhood feels. If the development must move forward in some form, then at the very least, I urge you to consider adjusting the layout, flipping the plan so that Block G backs onto Broadway and the less populated Blocks A and B back onto Spring Street, greatly reducing the impact on families who currently live here. This is a reasonable, thoughtful compromise that acknowledges both the town's growth needs and the rights of existing residents. We ask is that you put yourselves in our shoes. Imagine waking up to find your view gone, your privacy erased, wildlife displaced, and the noise of construction shaking the walls of your home, only then to face the long-term effects of higher density traffic and noise once everything is built. We are not opposed to progress. We are not unreasonable. We simply want to protect what makes Orangeville a community. Its green spaces, its livability, its sense of belonging. We would much prefer to see this space left as it is, but if that cannot happen, then we ask to you at least choose a design that respects the people who already live here. Thanks for your time.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Is there any further comments or questions from the gallery at this time? Yes, please come forward.
Hello, Council. My name is Margie Mori. I live at 5 Amanda Street. I think I just want to reiterate about the parking. I know that, I'm sorry, I forget your name, sir, but I know that you were saying that there's just to be 1 car per apartment. But there's no way to keep anybody from having more than 1 car. Inevitably, that's going to end up on Amanda Street. I think because we're all neighbors, we will, give and take for each other. When you come out of your driveway, our neighbor has a truck parked there doing some construction on his house. We work with that, and every time you go anywhere, there are deliveries being made. It's always you stop, you wait, and that's fine. We're all okay with that. But if you're looking at 120 units, I'm looking at 60 extra cars because half of those people are going to have a car, I'm going to guess. And they're all going to park where? On the street. I don't know what, there's overnight parking. There's no way that we're going to say there's no parking on the street. So that's where they're going to be. And in the winter, I don't know what they'll do. But again, then the town has to look at what are we going to do with parking? Are we going to start taking property from the houses on both sides and making the street wider? It changes the whole atmosphere of the community that we've been living in. Like anybody else, we bought this house over 20 years ago. We fell in love with it because of the property, because of the area that we have behind us. And we're looking now, we've had a house built just on one side of us, 3 Amanda. That was a surprise. We love our neighbors, but they've got like a huge tall house and then a huge tall building. We love them, we get along with them, but now I'm looking now on the new buildings, there's going to be townhouses going all the way down with windows looking over top of us. We'll have no privacy left at all. And again, we're not against other buildings, we're not against people coming, we love to share our community. We're just looking, with all due respect, sir, we just feel that this is just overwhelming for this small community street that we live on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being here. Anyone else who'd like to share their thoughts? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. So at this time, I'd like to acknowledge that written correspondence and a petition containing 489 signatures was submitted by Amber James and received and filed on November 17th, 2025 by the clerk's office. Are there any questions or comments from members of council at this time? Mayor Post.
Thank you very much. I know other members of council asked some questions earlier, but I was reserving my comments. Just a few things. I wanted to start off with full disclosure that the very first house I ever purchased was on Spring Street in 1998 from the developer. So when that development was built, that was the first home that I purchased. And I love that little neighborhood. I think it fits really perfectly off of Amanda Street. And when I look at this proposal, I think that there's an opportunity to build another Spring Street or something similar off of Amanda Street that could make a lot of sense. The struggle that I'm having, and when I look at the renderings that you've provided, I actually really like the way that they look, and I think that they have a place. I'm just not sure that that place is on Amanda Street. I think there's some other neighborhoods in town where these would be really great and where they would fulfill the official plan designation of the area. My concern is that, as you noted, Mr. Russell, in your presentation, that area right now under our official plan allows for 49 units per hectare, and you're requesting an amendment to 161 units per hectare, which is 3.5 times what's in our official plan. If it was a density request that was minor in nature, I think it could make some sense. But when I'm looking at 3.5 times, that's significant. When a municipality goes through the official plan process, we're doing so because we would like to have control and say into how our community is built. And we know that we already have to conform with the county's official plan and the provincial planning policy, and we've done that with our official plan. We've set out how we want that neighborhood to grow. And there is an opportunity in that area to grow. The density there is a really great place, but that level of density is 3.5 times what we would regularly permit, and for good reason. And a lot of the reasons that the folks in the gallery have already said. The street's very narrow. It's already a very busy area. There is a lot of through traffic. Having lived in that area myself, I can say there's a lot of traffic on that road already that's using it as a through way from Town Line to Broadway. And I'm concerned about the volume on that area being increased. again, I think the density in that area is actually a very good place for it, but 3.5 times what our official plan designation says is concerning to me. And I'm not sure why the proposal was submitted so significantly higher than what's permitted in that area. The other thing that I look at that causes me concern is the lack of working within the parking minimums that we've already set. And again, the parking minimums that we've set as a community are set that way because we know what our community needs and uses. And are there times that we would look at parking minimums and say that they're not reflective of the use of the facilities? Absolutely. If you were coming here and saying that it was going to be a supported housing unit where we know that people will be primarily transit users, that would be different, and we could have a conversation about a supported unit or something along those, or deeply affordable housing. I think that we could have an argument for parking minimum changes. But quite frankly, what you've just discussed as being your target demographic, I'm not sure that the one vehicle is going to suffice. As Councillor Prendergast said, we've got some data that suggests that, we've got a significant commuter population, and that's going to be a challenge. And I know it's really easy for the developer to say, in a sales agreement, they're going to sign off that they're only going to have one vehicle. But after you're built and done and out of the community, the rest of the community needs to deal with it when people don't meet those requirements that were in their sales agreement. So, as council, we get a lot of phone calls about parking issues across the community. Our staff hears them all the time as well. We do have limited parking in Orangeville as it is, and a high vehicle acquisition that all homeowners have. So those are some of my concerns. Again, I actually really like the way that it looks, and I think that there's a place that it could be very, very good in Orangeville. I'm just not sure that you've hit the nail on the head with Amanda Street with that.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mayor Post. Councillor Stevens, my apologies. We normally let the mayor go last and have the last word, and I did not see you on the screen. So you, sir, have the final word.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. Unfortunately, I couldn't be at attendance tonight at the meeting, but thank you for letting me go last. So I don't want to go through everybody's what they've already said, but parking, certainly a huge issue for all the residents in that area. And I chair Access Orangeville, and I really feel that having stacked townhouses isn't what we need in Orangeville right now. We, accessibility should be top priority, and it is for our committee and for myself. And I know that it's already been brought up by Councillor Andrews, but we really feel that, again, I agree with Mayor Post. These are probably good in another area, but not close to downtown and not at the price point, because those people that have accessibility issues will likely be looking at this price point. So thank you. And that's all the comments I have for now.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councillor Stevens. So at this point, we'll have a motion to receive the report from staff for information. Could I have a mover to do that? Councillor McIntosh, and a seconder, Councillor Prendergast, that Council receive a 9:15 Amanda Street Public Meeting Information Report, OPZ 2025-01, PM 2025-010 for information. Is there any further discussion before we move? No? Seeing none at this time, all in favor? And obviously none opposed, that motion carries. So thank you very much, everyone, for that. So that concludes Amanda Street tonight, and thank you very much for everyone for being here and offering your thoughts. You're welcome to stay for the next portion, because we'll now move into the non-statutory portion of the public meeting. The next matter on the agenda is regarding the town fees and charges. Why don't we just pause for a moment, and we'll let everybody exit the building for a second. Folks, if you wouldn't mind, thank you very much. Okay, so we'll now move into the non-statutory portion of the public meeting. The next matter on the agenda is regarding the town's fees and charges. I'll now call upon Cheryl Braun, our treasurer, to provide an overview of the 2026 consolidated fees and charges bylaw. Ms. Braun. You are.
Good evening. Yes,
Good evening.
thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I wasn't actually expecting to need to provide an overview, but I certainly welcome the opportunity here tonight. We will be presenting the final fees and charges bylaw updates on December 8th, but in the meantime, tonight's report does provide an outline of proposed fee changes for all the town's fees and charges that are carried within the bylaw. There are a few new fees and charges, particularly in fire services and recreation services. And then the remainder of the fees that are proposed to be changed for 2026 are generally in the range of maybe a 2 to 3% inflationary increase. A few in cemetery might be going up between 5 and 10%. But for the most part, staff reviewed the fees and charges and tried to determine with some benchmarking what's keeping up with inflation.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Braun. So we'll now move into public comments. We did not receive any delegation requests for this matter, so we'll move right into verbal comments during the meeting. A reminder that you were afforded 3 minutes to present your information to council, and this commenting period is only open to residents, taxpayers, service providers, or members speaking on behalf of an association or organization that serves the town of Orangeville and who have not spoken to this matter in the previous 3 months. Madam Clerk, are there any members in the gallery who have phoned in or who are online that have questions regarding the matter?
Yes, thank you. We do have one member in the attendee side of our Zoom meeting, Sarah. However, she has not made any indication of wanting to speak.
Okay. So we would assume that it's no. So we don't ask for any members of the public who are present who wish to speak to this item. Is there any members in the gallery who'd like to speak to this item? No? Seeing none. So we will acknowledge that the town has not received any written comments on this matter. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Sherwood.
Oh, thank you, through you. On page 24 of 74 of the agenda, I'm just questioning the return check service fee, the NSF fee. The current fee is $45 and proposing to reduce it to $10.
Who are you asking that to?
That would be Treasurer Braun.
Sure.
Yes, through you, Chair. I can't recall the exact date that it was declared, but I believe the federal government has put in place some legislation requiring that NSF fees be reduced to $10. So they can't exceed a $10 limit. This was part of, it's stretching my memory now. I think it was announced earlier, much earlier in like March of 2025. And it was to come into effect in January of 2026.
So do you know if we're permitted to charge at all then, or you're not sure?
So the banks are only required, or the banks will be limited to a $10 cap on NSF fees. And so we are just recovering that same fee.
Very good. Is that good, Councillor Sherwood? Thank you. Councillor Landers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Taylor, Ms. Braun, and the team that put this together. Again, thank you for doing so. I think from an inflationary perspective, seeing some of these increases, I have no concerns personally on that. Also appreciative of the fire component that was highlighted as well. I do have an observation, and this is strictly maybe one of just being in tune to what's happening with one of our sites. This is on page 41 of the council report, and this is regarding the Tony Rose swimming rental. As we know, the Tony Rose, the swimming pool, is not functional at this point, so I'm not sure if that just happens to be an omission or just something that needs to be highlighted, but for the sake of this conversation, just to take note of that. And the other is on page 47 or 48 of this report, the council agenda, pertaining to the locations for rental of the parking lot. I noticed that we have that identified, And just for the sake of specification, is that any of the parking lots we have within the inventory of our assets, or would that be specific to Tony Rose or Rotary or Alder? Not sure who would be the one that could answer that question.
Mr. Koslak, are you going to give that a shot?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Taylor. Actually, we'll have to take that back. I'm not sure exactly the parking lots they're referring to as part of the bylaw. So we'll take that back and we can come back with more information.
I do know that at times Alder, if I stand corrected, but I do know that Alder at times has had the northwest parking lot used for other activities, but this is maybe a few years ago, but this might be under that umbrella of use and cost.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Does anyone else from council want to speak? Councillor Stevens, I can't see you, so I don't know if you've got your hand up. But no? Okay, very good. So at this time, we will have a motion to receive the report for information. Could I have a mover for that? Councillor Andrews, Councillor Prendergast. That council received the 2026 consolidated fees and charges, CPS 2025091 for information. Any further discussion on this motion, anyone? No? Okay. All in favor? Very good, so that passes unanimously. Thank you. Rick, I couldn't see you. I assume you'd voice your disagreement if you had some. Okay, so at this time, we'll now move on to the third and final matter on the agenda regarding the draft tree preservation bylaw. I will now call upon Catherine Rogue, Senior Climate and Sustainability Specialist, to provide information. Oh, you do not look like Catherine. You've looked better.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. So good evening, Chair Taylor, members of council and residents of Orangeville. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you this evening. The tree preservation report and draft bylaw is being presented at this public meeting to introduce governance to protect Orangeville urban forestry and tree canopy across the municipality, including that on private property. On July 14th, 2025, the Tree Preservation Bylaw Framework Report Number 1 was presented to Council for review and consideration. Council received this report and directed staff to complete the rollout of a new bylaw and a report back to Council. This draft bylaw is now being presented at this public meeting to invite public consultation and feedback before being finalized. This bylaw supports the town's goal of achieving 40% tree canopy cover by the year 2040. The presentation you're about to see is a recap of the directions, process, and other information that has led to this public meeting and to the final but most important stage, that being seeking council's comments and those of the public and residents of Orangeville. I'd like to introduce you now to Catherine Rogue. She's our Senior Climate Sustainability Specialist who will be bringing us through this presentation, and she's done a lot of hard work on this. So please allow me to introduce her to council and the rest of the public. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Again, I apologize for not being there in person. I really wanted to, but I am dealing with a nasty cold, so I may have to every so often mute and cough my lung away. But thank you again for having me this evening, and thank you, Tony, for introducing me. So good evening, everybody. My name is Catherine. I'm the Senior Climate Specialist and Sustainability Specialist here at the town of Orangeville. And just piggybacking a little bit off of Drew, who mentioned our beautiful trees earlier on Amanda, I'm hoping to relay the significance of Orangeville's tree canopy and sort of summarize and bring forward as to why we're bringing forward this tree preservation bylaw. Next slide. Sorry, next slide.
Tony's going up to the desk now.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, so summarizing a little bit of what was mentioned earlier, here's a quick look of how we got here. This process started back in 2012 with the initial motion for a tree bylaw. Over time, we've seen several key steps from adopting the urban forest policy to setting a canopy goal of 40% by 2040. In 2023, Council directed staff to develop a framework from community input, and now in 2025, we're presenting the draft bylaw for public review. Next slide. So what is a tree preservation bylaw? Under this bylaw, residents will need to obtain a permit before removing, cutting down trees, or injuring a healthy tree with a diameter of 30 centimeters or more. This bylaw will focus on two main things: regulating the injury and removal of trees and requiring replacement, planting, or compensation when trees are removed. I'll be going over the permitting process a little bit later in one of the slides, but overall, the intent of this bylaw is for environmental protection, not financial gain, and certainly not to punish residents. I want to emphasize that the enforcement will be complaint-based, meaning the town will only investigate and take action when a formal complaint is received. Orangeville has committed to achieving 40% urban tree canopy by 2040, and this bylaw is a critical step towards that goal. Healthy trees provide shade, improve air quality, manage stormwater, and even increase property value. We're running out of space on public road allowances, meaning public property, so we need to look into private properties to help maintain this target. This bylaw encourages residents to pause and consider alternatives before removing a healthy tree, because every tree matters, especially for the climate resilience and community well-being. Permits and conditions will ensure that removals are justified and that replacement occurs where possible. But the approach is supportive, not punitive. Many neighboring municipalities have already adopted similar tree protection bylaws, and Orangeville is following regional trend to maintain consistency and strengthen our collective urban forestry efforts. This is a targeted and measured approach that will be reviewed in future years based on the success and available resources. Next slide. So the purpose of this bylaw is straightforward: to protect and enhance Orangeville's tree canopy and support our goal of achieving 40% cover by 2040. It's important to emphasize the key principles behind this bylaw. It's not about generating revenue or penalizing residents. It's instead about encouraging everyone to think twice about cutting down a healthy tree. And I will continue reiterating that throughout this presentation. In 2023, the town completed an urban tree canopy assessment. Here's what we learned. In Orangeville's tree canopy covers about 24% of our total land area. Of that 24%, 79% is on privately owned properties, while only 21% is on town-owned land, the portion which we actively manage. This tells us something important. To meet our canopy target and prevent further loss, we can't rely on public planting alone. We will need to preserve the trees we already have. Protecting trees on private property offers the greatest return on investment, because that's where most of our canopy is. It's ecological, social, and financial benefits. That's where they're all located. Healthy trees provide shade, improve air quality, manage stormwater, increase property values, just as a minimum benefit, and preserving them is essential for climate resilience and community well-being. Next slide. As mentioned, what are some of our neighboring municipalities doing? First, St. Thomas, which has a population of about 45,000 residents, has a private tree protection bylaw, which requires permits for any tree measuring greater than 30 centimeters in diameter. In 2022, they issued 140 permits. In 2023, 107. They have 2 full-time urban foresters who handle tree-related requests, and their staffs are sworn in as bylaw officer. And these are also sworn in as bylaw officers by council to enforce tree-related regulations. I apologize. Next, the town of Aurora, with a population a little bit larger than Orangeville's of 66,000. Their private tree bylaw requires a permit of over 20 centimeters. They allow live tree removals between 20 to 69 centimeters. And any additional removers require a permit fee of any trees over 69 centimeters. Aurora manages this with 1 full-time staff member in the Parks Department, who also handles similar duties related to urban tree forestry. For Orangeville specifically, we are not proposing additional staff at this time. Our approach will be complaint-based initially, and we will monitor how the bylaw works and how successful it is. However, as the program evolves, eventually additional resources may be required to ensure effective implementation in the future. Having a dedicated arborist would be highly beneficial to provide expert guidance, support enforcement, and strengthen our urban forestry management. Next slide. If, in case you haven't seen the results of the 2023 public survey, I'm throwing them back onto the screen for everybody to see. There was around 176 participants, and these were the results of the survey. So we did reach out to public to ask individuals what they thought about tree bylaws and whether or not we need to protect more trees. And the majority of our residents are in support of protecting Orangeville's tree canopy and agree that we should have a bylaw to avoid unnecessary tree removals. Next slide. So when is a permit required? In the instance of if your tree is 30 centimeters or larger in diameter, if your tree is healthy, and in the development and construction, tree removal may be required. So there's couple of instances, and it will be outlined in the tree bylaw. There are also some exemptions. If the tree is dead or diseased, if the tree is under 30 centimeters, if the tree is a hazard to human health, and under emergency tree removal, which is defined in the bylaw. I apologize, I need a cough. Even if the tree permit isn't required, you will still need to submit a removal request to our general manager of infrastructure before taking down the tree, GMIS in short. Your request should include a photo of the tree location details, tree species, and the diameter breast height. Finally, I apologize again. Finally, we will clarify the term injure, we'll clarify that the term injure will be defined in the final bylaw. Routine pruning for tree health and safety will not require a permit. The intent is to prevent harmful actions that compromise a tree's health or structural integrity and not to discourage proper tree maintenance. As mentioned, the GMIS will review a request and decide whether or not to approve it. And this is why I am virtual, I apologize. Next slide. Where an owner, developer, or arborist wishes to remove or injure a regulated tree on private property, and where those trees are not eligible for exemptions, then a permit is required from the town prior to removing, injuring, or destroying that tree. Trees will be regulated under the tree preservation bylaw are still permitted to be removed, injured, or destroyed. However, the owner will be subject to replanting requirements or replacement costs stipulated in the bylaw at their own expense. Meaning that, again, this doesn't restrict people from residents from removing trees from their property. It will just come at a cost. Again, this is just to encourage individuals to think twice before cutting down a healthy tree. And the next slide, if you could go over to the next slide, goes over those tree replacement costs. As an example, if an applicant wants to remove a 100 centimeter sized tree and only plants one replacement tree, I'm so sorry. Only plants one replacement tree instead of 4, they would pay cash in lieu for the remaining 3 trees at $400 per tree. Again, this is in support to ensure fairness and help maintain our overall canopy cover. Next slide. This slide summarizes the permitting process, who the authority is, application requirements, and notification. Permit application fees are non-refundable and payable before submitting the application. It will be encouraged not to apply for a permit if your tree is dead or may be an imminent hazard, as it will likely be exempted. Again, there is a description of all the exemptions in the bylaw specifically. Refunds will not be issued for permit applications submitted for hazard trees that are exempt for a permit. This permitting process is designed to ensure transparency and proper evaluation for all regulated trees that are removed or before any regulated tree is removed or injured. The GMIS will oversee permanent issuance, while enforcement and compliance will fall under the officer's authority, which is our bylaw. Applicants must complete applications must be complete and submitted at least 10 business days in advance, including an arborist evaluation and clear marking of the trees for inspection. Officers can add conditions to ensure safe and responsible removal. If an application is incomplete, it will be returned within 30 days, and applications will be notified of any denial within the same time frame. And then finally, my last slide just shows, if you could, sorry, thank you. My last slide just shows some of the supporting documentation, some of the reports that I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation. We have the tree preservation report. We have our urban forestry policy. We have an Orangeville Community Action Plan and our Sustainable Neighborhood Action Plan. They're wonderful reports. So if anybody has any time to read them or has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But that concludes my presentation. I have questions or comments here, but I'm not sure this is.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I don't think this will take long, Council. Why don't we just save it till the end and then we'll go from there if that's okay. So you're amazing. Thank you for getting yourself through that. That's well done.
I'm really passionate about trees. Sorry, I apologize. I'm really passionate about trees, and
I can tell, and it's and especially when you're not feeling well. So thank you for this. I will have some questions myself, and I'm sure the rest of council will as well. So we'll now move into public comments. We did not receive any delegation requests for this matter, so we'll move right into the verbal comments during the meeting. A reminder that you were afforded 3 minutes to present your information to council, and this commenting period is open only to residents, taxpayers, service providers, or members speaking on behalf of an association or organization that serves the town of Orangeville who have not spoken to this matter in the previous 3 months. Madam Clerk, are there any members in the gallery who have phoned in, who are online, or who have questions regarding this matter?
There are no members online.
No. Okay, very good. If no, then we will now ask if there are any members of the public present who wish to speak to this item. If you do, please come forward. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address. Good to see you.
Mark Middleton. I live on Zion Street. I've got 2 massive trees in the back. Like, they're massive. They're like probably 70 years old, and I'm trying to figure out who determines whether or not they're dying. Do I call an arborist? Do I have the town come out, assess it? Because they are in the midst of, they're dying, right? But we're trying to keep them.
Yeah.
And there's portions of it, the one on one side of it's already fallen over, so we had to cut that off. And so like it is dying off. And so we've already planted a couple of trees to kind of take over that space. But looking at, if I have to cut 1 tree down, I have to plant 4. I have another tree I'll eventually have to cut. So now I got to plant another 4. My lot's like 60 feet. My roots go out 25 feet. They're massive. And so I need certain amount of space for the trees I have already to essentially flourish and grow, right? So,
right.
And you guys have given us the trees too, which I encourage everyone to go out and get trees if you've got the yard space and you don't have the funds, or you really want to change the landscape of your lawn, go out and get trees. It's amazing you guys do that. But I'm just kind of concerned that I'm gonna have to have these trees removed, but then I've got to add, like, I have no space to put those trees, right? So is there any consideration other than, doling out, $2,400 for a penalty that we're already trying to preserve, those trees plus the trees we've already planted?
Catherine, did you want to respond to Mr. Middleton?
Sure, through you, Chair. So there are exemptions for diseased and dying trees. It would require arborist evaluation just to confirm that. If the arborist confirms that it's dying, you don't have to replace them. You're free to cut down the tree, especially if it is at end of life.
Very good. Does that answer your question, Mr. Middleton? Yeah.
We're trying to keep them going, so we have an arborist come out every year to kind of trim them back, and so that they're not falling on the neighbors, especially like some of those windy winter days.
Right.
Like we're out in the kitchen watching, like trying to see them, like, oh my gosh, one of them, like, right? So we're always trying to look out for those trees, but it seems like this is a good program too you guys have. I just wanted to kind of get some background as to what, for this, our particular situation. And invite her to come out to our house to see. Like I said, the trees are they're massive, and they definitely take up a lot of our property. But
Okay.
thank you, guys.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Middleton. Is there anyone else in the gallery who'd like to speak? Yes, sir. Please come on up. Okay. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And just state your name and address and.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. And thank you, Catherine, for the presentation. My name is Wade Spears. I live at 273 Thompson Road. I've been a resident of Orangeville for roughly 15 years now. I think this is great. The town's taking a great step forward to help protect and grow our urban canopy. Some of those documents that Catherine referenced at the end include a great deal of information, the importance of protecting the canopy, stating that majority of the private trees make up our urban canopies. So protecting them and putting this in place is very important. I just feel that we're failing the whole program if we don't have a dedicated arborist on staff. I've done municipal tree preservation bylaw inspections for 10 years. I've been in the industry for roughly 25 years now, and not having somebody that has experience in dealing with hazardous, dead, diseased trees to help support the program is going to fail the program. Not being able to identify a picture that's submitted that it's a hazardous tree immediately could just cause huge liability for the town and risk. Also, somebody that's going out and inspecting the trees and saying that it is healthy and you're not going to remove it, it also puts risk and liability on the town as well too. So having a certified arborist that has tree risk assessment qualifications is very important for this program to be successful. Just a second, I'm going to pull up my notes here. For the replacement costs and everything, I feel, the cash in lieu is very important for this program. It by no means covers the cost of what a tree replacement is for the town to put in a tree for those cash in lieu trees. And I hope that funding goes to that program and not going to sit in a reserve fund for it to be used for anything else other than planting trees. So if it is going to be set up that way, I hope that the town takes the appropriate measures to use those funds for replacing these trees. Thank you, Van, for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spears. Catherine or Tony, did you want to offer commentary? You certainly don't have to. Okay, very good. Any further questions from the gallery? No, seeing none at this time. Oh, yeah, please come forward. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, no problem. Didn't see you there.
Yes, thank you. My name's Barbara Whiten. I'm on Cannon Court in Orangeville.
Yeah.
I was really surprised when I heard about this, what this proposal is. I love trees. I have a cottage in Muskoka. I love trees. But I just feel that that we pay our taxes. It's our property. And if somebody wants to put up a patio, wants to put a pool in there, and there's been a tree there for so many years, whether they bought a new house or whether they bought a resale, that should be our right to be able to do what we want within reason on our property that we pay taxes to the town for. If we want to better our property and make it look nice and enjoy it, we should be able to do so. And if there happens to be a tree there that isn't part of what our landscape plans are for the property, again, it's a hard decision to make. And like I said, I love trees, but people should also be given the freedom to be able to do what they want in, let's say, in their backyard, to better enjoy their home, enjoy their property, and not feel that they have to be restricted and then turn around and be penalized should they take it down. Like I've been living in our place now since 78. Got a beautiful crimson maple out the backyard, which I love, but it is getting closer to the house. I have had it trimmed down by Otts a couple of times just to keep it back. But there may come a time when those roots, and the roots are starting to show above the ground, and there may come a time when that has to come down. It still may be healthy because it's expanding. The neighbor behind me, the people who bought that house, probably 2 or 3 families ago, they planted a tree like almost right on the property line. So that tree is now growing and is actually now pretty much touching our fence. The tree's healthy. It looks to me anyways to be healthy, but it's going to start causing damage to the fence that divides our property up. So I just think that there are other alternatives, and can the town not plant trees on the boulevard? Because that would bring more trees in and give that umbrella. And people coming in, tourists, whatever, they're not going to see what's going on in people's backyards. They're going to see what's going on the street. So to plant trees on the boulevards to enhance that canopy that you're looking for, which I totally agree, I think is a much better idea than telling people what they can and can't do on their own property when they're paying taxes.
Yeah. Catherine, did you want to respond to that? I saw your hand up. Did you want to?
Yes, just a minor comment through you, Chair. So we are running out of space on the boulevards, and we are running out of public space to plant the additional trees. And I appreciate your comments. I am stressing that this is complaint-based. So unless your neighbor would be very upset about you cutting down that tree, it would not be brought forward. And like you mentioned, if your tree is aging and it's in the point of it is potentially going to damage your home, or it is, again, disease, then that's an exemption that will not be included in this bylaw. But we will take all comments and feedback and consider it in this draft bylaw.
Property or your property or whatever, and people like to add things on as time goes on, and we pay taxes, we own the property, and if we feel that we want to make a change, we should be able to do so. Thanks for listening.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any further comments from the gallery at this time? No? Okay. Seeing none. I'd like to acknowledge that the town has not received any written comments on this matter. Are there any members of council who'd like to speak to this matter? Councillor Andrews, since I'm looking at you. Oh, did I miss? Were you up first? Well, how about Councillor Scher? Would you go ahead?
Thank you, Chair. One of the things that I don't see in here addressed that had me slightly disappointed is there's nothing regarding the historic tree preservation. I think it's very imperative that we be protecting trees of cultural or historical significance. And I just want to bring to your attention, there are several municipalities that have a heritage tree program, that being the City of Barrie, Town of Fort Erie, City of Mississauga, and the Town of Pelham. My question is to staff, was anything discussed or thought about putting historical tree preservation as part of this?
Catherine, did you want to speak to that? You don't have to.
Sorry,
I don't want to put you on the spot.
That's okay. Through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. Most historic trees are of a certain size, so of a certain DBH, and I believe they'd be captured under the 30-centimeter DBH requirement. But we could definitely take that into consideration, especially with all of our heritage bylaws and projects. Is that the appropriate word? Thank you.
Okay, very good. Councillor Sherwood, are you good? Yeah, okay. Councillor McIntosh, do you want to speak?
Thank you, Deputy, and thank you, Catherine, for the presentation. I know you struggled through it, but you did a good job. I'm really torn with this bylaw. On the one half, I think it's a good idea. On the other half, I agree with the speaker that said, it's my backyard, I can do what I want. I see both sides. I do have a question for you, though. I'm not very good with a tape measure. So if I don't get 30 centimeters, I think it's 25 and cut it down, what's my penalty going to be?
Yep. Catherine? No?
Perhaps.
Mr. Kostelak, did you want to take that one? Yeah.
Through your worship, it is again complaint driven. So if somebody does complain about it, we'd come out. There are formulas. So if you measure at the base of the tree, you can estimate what it would be at breast height. So we could look at that option. And also one of the things when we were doing this bylaw, we looked at a lot of different versions and we wanted to have something, I think our CAO said it before, sort of a toes in the water to start lightly. So some of the areas like the heritage trees and some of the other components weren't included at this time right away to get the program going without the need for additional staff resources. We were trying to do it with our existing staff, but we could expand the program in the future. So we were looking a little bit the opportunity to get a program going that wasn't too onerous to deliver and not too restrictive on the residents.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, did you want to speak at this time?
Yeah, so the draft bylaw includes provisions for inclusion in our administrative penalty system bylaw. While the fees for the charges under the administrative penalties have not been finalized, it was anticipated that the fines would equate closely to what the cash in lieu costs would be for the replacements.
Very good, thank you. Why don't we, we'll skip myself, we'll do Prendergast, you wanted to speak, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. Oh, certainly. Okay, we'll work our way back this way, if that's okay, and then I'll end on Mayor Post. Okay,
That's
go ahead,
okay.
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Again, Catherine, thank you very much for your commitment to this, and again, your perseverance of being able to get through your presentation this evening. Very similar to Councillor McIntosh, I'm kind of down the middle on this one because it is absolutely imperative that we meet tree canopy requirements, or at least our commitment to improving our tree canopy. Mr. Spears, who spoke from the general public in the gallery, I also, again, thank you for your comments because, looking at the bylaw process, if, we move down this path, the experience of individuals, again, this is complaint-based, but the experience of individuals that are on bylaw, I don't know if they have that arborist background. So again, that's just kind of a point of reference. Looking at incentives versus punishment or punitive. This is kind of where I am, is, I'd like to see some form of incentives, and we do have, under the leadership of Sustainable Orangeville, you would have that opportunity of trees that are available to the general public, but there's only so much room that some people may have also on their property. And I'll just give a real case in point. You have the resident that identified that your backyard is your domain. And unfortunately, we do have, some unfortunate circumstances that happen from weather, and we have, beautiful trees in the backyard and something happens. And then, we have an obligation to do one of two things. And Catherine outlined in this particular document that there are those exceptions to those rules, which includes, again, health of the tree, an emergency that comes about, and so on and so forth. But I think the point that I was struggling with is the ability to document the before and after. So the before is the fact that the tree exists, and if it is complaint-based, if it's already been taken down, depending on how much it's been taken down by, right down to ground level, somebody could also get the stump, torn up as well. So that's where I'm having kind of a hard time in trying to figure out exactly where I am in this one, but I think it is imperative for us to commit to our tree canopy. There are solutions to that. We have some best practices that no doubt that Catherine and the rest of the team have identified in this report, but also in other municipalities across the province and across the country as well.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Stevens, you have your hand up? Maybe not.
Sorry, I did.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just having internet issues. I agree with Councillor Andrews and Councillor McIntosh. I'm in the same boat, and I just wanted to let everybody know that. But I think it's a great start, but I think there's probably some more work that needs to be put into the bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you. I've thought a lot about the tree canopy, or the tree preservation bylaw on private property. As the chair of Sustainable Orangeville and someone who spends an inordinate amount of time thinking about trees, it has weighed heavily on me. But I'm also not thinking it from an environmental perspective, but a holistic perspective from a resident's point of view. And I just want to start by saying that I'm fully supportive of the new tree preservation bylaw. And I support strict requirements and penalties for developers and during construction, because development really does have the greatest impact on tree loss. And that could be done through our permitting process and doesn't require extra staff. At the same time, though, I'm mindful of the residential homeowner. As identified earlier and through our urban canopy assessment, 79% of plantable area in Orangeville is on residential property and institutional property. Residents are already our biggest partners in growing the canopy, and any bylaw that we put into place should empower them and not discourage them. So I'm just looking at it through this perspective. We're seeing a strong, very strong uptake, and thank you, Councillor Andrews, for highlighting this, in our tree giveaway program. Matter of fact, we're expanding it to do it a second time next year. That's another 200 trees planted in Orangeville with the success of this program. Extending development style regulations into private backyards, I fear could risk slowing that momentum. It's creating more boundaries for people to plant trees, and it could act as a deterrent just for residents. We don't want to unintentionally reduce planting or participation, especially when so many residents want to choose smaller trees like elderberries, which are manageable for their new smaller lots. The replacement price for some of these trees identified is huge, and a lot of the smaller lots in town can't substantiate these giant trees. So it's just a consideration there. Orangeville has already shown a unique resident-first approach, and we've done things that are innovative, like fare free transit. We can also lead here maybe differently with education, communication, and support for the resident, helping understand tree health, having workshops through maintenance. Maybe we should really consider how expensive tree care is. And we have residents who are already really taking care of their properties. You know, we don't live in a huge urban place where people are not taking care of their properties. And we do have clean yard bylaws that would refer to these other things if people were really mismanaging their properties. Anywho, I think we should explore rebates for arborist assessments and maintenance to support residents in caring for their trees. Helping them succeed, perhaps, is more effective than starting with the penalizing approach. And insofar as positive reinforcement, to what Councillor Sherwood said, we could really formalize celebrating and honoring significant trees through the Orangeville Heritage Tree Registry, which could be done in partnership with Sustainable Orangeville and Heritage Orangeville, building community pride without adding red tape, but also drawing public attention to very notable trees, our biggest trees. We can find them. We have drones, we have GIS. We can find the biggest, oldest trees in town, even if they're in backyards. And we could celebrate those trees. So that's something we could do. In closing, anywho, I support protecting our trees. I support strong rules for development and construction, but I really think that we need to reconsider how we're looking at this. Encourage residents by not over-regulating them, but maybe helping them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Prendergast. So I guess I'm next, and then the mayor. Most of the comments are gone. However, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. The arborist itself, like typically to me, if you have a large tree and you're taking it down and you're not supposed to be doing so, you are hiring someone to do that. There should be penalties for the arborist as well if the tree comes down, not just the owner. So in other words, I can't do that work for you because it could mean my license, it could mean a fine, and I can't support that. So I'd like to see us look at that if we could. That would really make a difference. And then the other piece is the amount of fines that are given. So if you're taking down a large tree that is deemed to be healthy, and these are all difficult things, like how are you going to go through the assessment once you get there? But let's assume that we get there and it's healthy and they shouldn't have taken it down, they didn't follow the processes, and they're guilty and the fine comes in. The best way in our town to do something, let me go back. If you open up a restaurant in this town and you fall on your face in the first weekend, you're in a lot of trouble, because it goes quickly around town that, Todd's Deli is not the place to eat. Don't buy the sandwiches there. If you get a fine for taking down a tree and it's $400, it hurts. I mean, I don't want to be elitist here, but if you got a fine and it was $2,000 or $2,500 or $3,000, boy, that's going to rocket through the town quickly, and you better think twice before you do something. So I always think that I know people get annoyed when you get a parking ticket or some sort of fine, but I think that the fine should be prohibitive and scary and of significance. And I think we should look at doing that so that it does enable people to follow through with what they need to do. And then the last piece for me is I thought that, Mr. Spears made a good point about the arborist on staff. I don't know. Whenever we're going to hire more people, I always think about our operating budget versus our capital budget. Capital is really exciting and interesting, and operational, I was like, I don't want to do that. It would be neat to just understand what the study was. And I know we have a great arborist team who goes around now, and I won't mention the company, but I've had good dealings with them. I know the owner, think highly of them. But maybe it's time to have something on staff, or at least understand what that would look like and what it would be. Those are my thoughts, and maybe at this time I'll turn it to you, Mayor Post, for your final thoughts on this as well.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Taylor. Councillor Prendergast covered a lot of what I was going to say as well, because really, when I started looking at the bylaw, I thought, I don't know that we're on the right path here. Protecting and enhancing our tree canopy is super important for climate resilience, for neighborhood character, for overall long-term health of our community. But the way that the bylaw is drafted right now, I do have some concerns. So I do find it too restrictive for everyday responsible homeowners. I think the requirement for arborist reports, permit applications, cash in lieu payments, all of that introduces a level of red tape and cost that I'm not really comfortable placing on residents, particularly right now when affordability is already a major challenge in our community. The second thing I'm concerned about is our ability to administer and enforce a bylaw of this scale. I know that Catherine said earlier we don't need to add new staff at this moment, but that's scary words, because then we had someone else come up and say, well, in order to administer this successfully, you need a dedicated arborist. Well, that's pennies that I'm seeing already. We have so many mature neighborhoods in Orangeville, and a bylaw that requires inspections, 10-day reviews, follow-ups, and orders are going to create a significant workload. I'm not confident right now that we have the staffing capacity to meet the expectations that are written in this document right now without delay or frustrations for residents. And quite frankly, as we're heading into our budget process, which is focused on finishing what we've started, staying the course, and really being fiscally responsible, I'm concerned about the idea of creating a department, which is what I'm seeing is going to happen here, to be able to administer a bylaw that I'm not sure that we need yet. And the reason I say that is that we already have really strong tools that we've started. We've started a really good strength in education. We can really expand on that program, and we can encourage our residents to do the right thing through the programs that we already have. Our tree giveaway program has been so successful that, as Councillor Prendergast said, we're going to do 200 more trees. That means residents are interested in planting trees on their property. And when we become restrictive and start enhancing penalties rather than education and support and creating ways to encourage tree health that they already have. And I love the idea of some sort of an arborist support grant to say, take care of the trees that you've got, get them looked at if you're concerned about their overall health. I also think that we should be really working on our boulevard tree planting program. I'm not sure that we've nailed that program fully yet. And I think we could do a better job of administering that program and making sure that those boulevard trees are healthy and replaced in a timely manner. And we could do that ourselves. We could also have better partnership with school boards, commercial property owners, developers, create new and exciting incentives through Sustainable Orangeville, ongoing community education. I love the idea of a heritage tree registry that we can really focus on some of our biggest trees in the community. And I think that those strategies can build canopy, they can build community buy-in without adding big barriers and restrictive costs to homeowners. I also don't like the little bit of a government overreach that it feels like it is by saying you can't cut down that tree when you want to, put up anything without it being financially restrictive. So I'm not opposed to exploring a tree preservation bylaw at some point. I'm just not sure we're there right now, and I think we need a better phased approach to do it, because I am concerned about that ongoing operating cost, because I think inevitably there is going to be enhanced capacity and that's needed in order to meet the service level requirement. And we're not at a point where we're looking at expanding our services. We're really trying to stay the course and finish what we've started.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mayor Poston. Unfortunately, you do not get the last word because Councillor McIntosh would like to have the last word. Go ahead, please, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As I stated before, I'm torn with this bylaw. However, if we could gear this bylaw more towards new construction sort of thing, nothing drives me crazy than a new house going up and 20 trees taken down. If we could gear this bylaw more towards, I don't know how it would work. Maybe if you get a building permit, you have to have an inspection of your trees paid for by you. That's the way I would like to see this bylaw go. I'm a little leery of the residents having to suffer for this. To cut a tree down that's over 30 centimeters is going to cost you a few $1,000s anyway. Anyway, just my thoughts. I'd like to see the bylaw go a little more that direction.
You do not get the last word either, because Councillor Prendergast would like the last word. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to comment too on the fact that it's complaint-based. So the tree's already cut down by the time somebody complains. So that's kind of the point, right? Like, the tree's dead. We can't do anything about it. Yeah, you can give somebody a fine, but what's like $400 when the tree's dead and it's been growing for 70 years? So I think like through a different approach and how we discussed, perhaps scaffolding this, maybe not this iteration of council, we see a formalized tree preservation bylaw on private property for residents. Maybe it's next time, but I strongly support construction and developers paying the price for the trees that they do clear cut, so to speak, to make room for large scale development, not a small shed in your backyard.
Very good. Last call. It's quiet. It's good. Okay. A motion to receive the report for this information. Could I have one? Councillor Prendergast, Councillor Andrews. Any comments lastly? Seeing none, all in favor? Yes, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, anyone. So I'll now turn the meeting back over to Mayor Post to chair the remainder of the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. We will move straight into bylaws. The recommendation is that the confirming bylaw listed below be read 3 times and finally passed, which is the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council today. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Andrews and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor McIntosh, seconded by Deputy Mayor, all in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank